Welcome back, everybody. You got Will and I-Man here from the Block Runner, and today we're going to be talking about Enjin. One of the things that we discovered today was the search of DeFi compared to NFT, and as you can see here in red, NFTs are outperforming DeFi in Google search. So what does that really mean, I-Man?
I think it's pretty understandable why it's happening. I mean, NFTs are just much more like consumer friendly products as opposed to a DeFi, product. So
Yeah.
I mean, who's mostly using Google search? Consumer people.
Yeah.
The consumer is using Google most of the time. So the consumer is being introduced to all these awesome marketable products such as NBA Top Shots, art,
Yeah.
Beeple art, Ferocious, all this cool stuff that's visually very stimulating. So, and I'll add on top of that all these headline grabbers of, holy Jeebus, like this guy just made $15 million
Yeah.
flip these cards. Like, oh man, things like that. That's enough to gravitate, like, the common commercial retail investor, their interest. So it's definitely outpacing DeFi. I didn't think it was going to happen this quick.
Yeah, neither did I.
We knew NFTs were coming because we've been in the space for a couple of years now. But when we first started the space, NFTs were such a speculative concept, and the only real evidence we had to really point and look at back then was like CryptoKitties' success, because
That's right.
nothing really was successful outside of that
Yeah.
in the NFT space. You know what I mean? Maybe Decentraland Land arguably was pretty successful at the time, but nothing to the level we're seeing today. You know what I mean? Today, NFT mania is a legit thing.
It's as high as it's ever been.
Yeah, we have legit massive people like public figures.
Mark Cuban.
Mark Cuban, Gary Vaynerchuk, the Jack Dorsey guy.
Jack Dorsey. Yeah, he just minted his very first tweet.
Yeah, I think it's selling for like $2 million or something like that. Something bonkers, right? So that's another headline grabber. We're seeing this. Why is the CEO or the founder of Twitter like minting an NFT of his OG tweet? I think it's like literally just says like setting up my Twitter. Like that's it.
Yeah.
That's literally the tweet. He's like, I'm setting it up, brah.
Yeah.
And that thing is selling for millions. Like isn't this what I said, dude? If you go back in time into our podcast history, like maybe a year ago,
Yeah.
we were asking this very question. We're like, what is it going to take for people and gamers to enter in droves into the NFT sector? Because we understood the implications of the technology.
Yeah.
It was kind of hard to project when like that breakthrough moment would happen. And I think my response was, as soon as the headline grabbers of like some kid just made $1 million flipping game NFTs and he bought a Lambo with it. Those are the headlines we need to start seeing, and you're going to see this exponential onboarding curve, and this is what we're seeing.
It happened the fastest with, I think, Top Shots. Because I think they did like 250 million in volume in like 2 weeks or something like that. The headlines started coming out. This guy made $1 million or $10 million.
We know people like who've been with us this whole journey, like the last couple of years in the NFT space, and they've become millionaires.
Yeah.
Because they invested their time and their money into the right ecosystem of NFTs.
Yeah, they were buying Top Shots in August and September.
Yeah, whenever like the marketplace volume was like 50-60K a day. Like nothing at the time, nothing to scoff at. Like, yo, that was good in NFT land back then. You made 50,000 in a day. Whoa,
right?
Nowadays, you should be making that like every fucking hour.
Yeah,
maybe more. So that's what I'm saying. Like,
so yeah, it explains how NFTs is outpacing the search for DeFi, which there was a certain point in this like journey that we've been on, like since the podcast, is like the biggest thing happening in the crypto space was DeFi. We were going to erode the financial system with decentralized finance. Yeah. And that was the biggest thing that was happening in the crypto space, right? On top of Ethereum. Now we have competitors against Ethereum. We have Binance Smart Chain competing, and all of a sudden NFTs start getting this mass appeal, and they're outpacing DeFi, which was the biggest thing that was happening in crypto space. And it's understandable why, because it's more marketable, it's a lot more appealing, a lot more visually attractive. And
it's everything that the original CryptoKitties white paper said it would be.
And DeFi is more like boomer math, except hyper, right? You're not getting 1 or 2% yields anymore. You're getting like 20, 30, sometimes 1,000% yield, depending on what degen sector of the crypto space you're in.
Yeah, like the language of DeFi only speaks to a certain demographic of people, like people who already understand finance in the first place, which is a very small sector of people.
Yeah.
So not many people are able to participate in that ecosystem and actually feel confident enough to not like get screwed, As opposed to the NFT ecosystem, anyone can participate. It's so much more understandable. It's enjoyable.
And not only that, anybody can make an NFT.
Yeah, anybody can, exactly. Anybody can create, anybody can, and make money in this space. You know, I mean, you could potentially also get wrecked just like you could in DeFi, but there's the potential to make money and collect and do all the things you already like to do, but actually, profit at the end of the day. That's very powerful.
When we discovered Decentraland, we figured that decentralized metaverses would become successful if you could figure out ways to allow people to make money, right? Yep. That was the genesis, the reason for why we created MetaZone, right? That's still the foundational reason why a metaverse would be successful, is if you can come in and start making money. Now, so the reason why we're talking about Enjin is because they're the ones who created the ERC 1155 standard. So if you don't know what an NFT is, it stands for non-fungible token, and it represents a specific unique digital item. An example would be like if you have two different CryptoKitties and let's assume that they're identical in the way that they look. The reason why they're not identical in terms of blockchain is because of the ERC 721 standard. That's the standard NFT that we're all sort of kind of used to. Mm-hmm. And the reasons, and from a blockchain level, the reason why they're different is because one, the first CryptoKitty has a specific mint. Let's call it the first mint. And then the same one, the same identical one, but minted after, it's mint number 2. And that is how they're fundamentally different, right? ERC 721s identify the first mint versus compared to the second mint and so forth.
Yeah, they have distinguishable characteristics, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. And so now you can take that concept and gamify it. You can put characteristics for the first mint that the second mint doesn't. And so now you can create a game out of it. Cryptocurrencies, like you would find in, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all these like thousands of cryptocurrencies out there, those are considered fungible, meaning if I have a Bitcoin and you have a Bitcoin and we trade it, we have the equivalent value of a Bitcoin. It's not the same as if I send you a CryptoKitty and you send me a different one. Those are two different assets. They're completely not identical at all.
True. So
one is fungible, that's cryptocurrencies, and ones are non-fungible like a CryptoKitty. So then what is ERC 1155? 1155s are very similar to ERC 721s like a CryptoKitty, other than the fact that now you can have a set of NFTs like arrows or ammunition or food, that each NFT that represents a piece of food might be identical with each other, right?
Yeah.
And so that...
If you're a gamer, you understand this.
Yeah. So like in World of Warcraft, if you collected a bunch of arrows for your character, you can trade that as an NFT asset with 1155s. And so I think part of the design in 1155s is I think that the transactions are cheaper, like in terms of, because it's still on Ethereum, so the transactions are not as high. And we sort of went through their some of the example transactions happening in the marketplace. When's the last time you've ever seen a $4.31 transaction, man?
Been a while. Been a hot minute.
Yeah, and this happened today.
For like a relatively inexpensive asset, $86 on the very low tier of like the NFT space. Most people who have exposure to the NFT space are only familiar with art, and art right now is in like this super inflated state of mind, like where everything is just so expensive. And a lot of it is due to the nature of the gas expenditure process. I don't know, like the market is kind of like compensated for this amount of gas that they're all spending collectively in trading these assets, that I feel like the market has justified this inflation evaluation,
Yeah.
Oh, gas costs $100 to send. That means this asset needs to be at least $1,000 to justify spending this much on it. We can't be trading $100 assets and spending $100 of gas. It just doesn't make sense. So the market has kind of like readjusted its own environment according to that,
Yeah, and so somehow their ERC 1155 smart contract, which everyone on the Enjin like platform are using, it doesn't require a lot of gas to get there, right? You're not spending as much gas to move these NFTs versus, you know, sending someone an an ERC 721 CryptoKitty, right? That's going to cost, you know, a lot more gas, and you would be paying to send somebody ammunition for a game or food or whatever. So, and that's why, I guess I don't have it pulled up, but that's why if you go to CoinGecko and you search for Enjin, their market cap, damn, they're at number 62, $1,221,000,000 market cap.
So the Enjin is definitely like the leader in the NFT space right now, currently, from a market cap perspective, clearly, you know, but I still don't think the gaming frontier hasn't penetrated the market
Agreed.
yet. You know, like us, the reason for us to make this video, not just because we're also like actively participating in this industry, the gaming sector of blockchain, but also from like a speculative standpoint. Like you always want to like have a front running understanding of like what's coming next. You know, okay, we can identify today based off social metrics and like marketplace volume and activity. NFTs are hot, they're booming, but not all of them are hot and are booming. There are some NFTs that are being left out, and it's largely the gaming sector.
That's
true.
Know,
just because it's a lot. For one, yeah, the market conditions of the gas, the layer 2, or the scalability issue is impacting gaming the most. It's not as easy to justify spending this much gas on a game asset as it is for an art piece or some kind of speculative collector item. So it's important to understand the platforms like Enjin that are working to, you know, not only ease the development process for like, you know, a traditional game developer to onboard and create this whole new like speculative ecosystem and economy for people to participate in the game universes they're creating. But yeah, like the important part is like identifying the infrastructure pieces that are missing ahead of time, so that whenever they do end up coming, like, right, you know, you'll be able to make those solid investments. You know, so Enjin's definitely one of them. And yeah, I guess part of our task now from here on out is finding these other infrastructure platforms that will facilitate like this next boom in NFTs, you know, the gaming space. Like when are the gamers coming, you know?
Yeah. That's such a good point. You know, that's part of the point of why we do this, is to figure out what the problems are in the space and see who is actively trying to solve those problems, because then from a speculative standpoint, it becomes easier to determine, hey, these guys are fixing this problem that we're seeing, and these guys are fixing a problem that we are feeling specifically because we're in the blockchain gaming space. So so the problem that we're identifying here is, why isn't the speculative mania that is happening in the NFT space not happening in the game space? Why? Why is that? So that's something that we have to figure out. Now, I think there's, and like you're saying, I think there's a lot of opportunity here to build that infrastructure in place so that a mania could take place.
Yeah,
and it seems
I think
like
that mania would be the mania of all manias. Like,
yeah, I think so too. Yeah, because when it comes down to it, the mania that's happening in the NFT space, it's the greater fool theory. Who is going to pay more for the NFT that I just purchased? Which fool is going to pay more for the NFT I just purchased, right? Versus in the game space, is like these become functional. Some people would pay, you know, probably 10 times as much because they need it to do some function in a game. Because they have functionality, it has a higher perceived value than just an art NFT.
And it's like a difficulty barrier to acquiring it. There's no difficulty required to buying a Beeple piece. I guess the most difficult thing is outcompeting a bot. If you successfully outcompeted a bot, that's the furthest the extent of the gamification process goes.
Yeah.
But in this blockchain gaming space, most of the designs for these assets themselves are going to be reward based, and like, you know, basically purely work and effort put into them to acquire them. I'm assuming, you know, every game designer is going to have their own. A lot of them will probably use these game assets as like crowdfunding mechanisms for their game development. We haven't really seen that yet, but it's definitely going to come at some point in the future, where, you know, a game needs games are expensive. They're not easy to make. We haven't really seen the mechanics deployed yet for these game developers to raise sufficient funding like we have seen the cryptocurrency space. It's not cheap either to make a crypto project.
That's true.
But the crypto space has figured out plenty of ways how to incubate them. You know, we have IDO mania happening right now.
True. That's such a good point.
Yeah, so we're waiting for the emergence of these incubation ecosystems to come for the gaming space. And you're going to see a lot of these rare assets dropped from the beginning, from the get-go. So yeah, there won't be much work needed to acquire them, it will be mostly capital incentivized. You know, like the more capital you have, the better assets you can accrue off the bat.
Yeah.
Now these games have funds to actually build these worlds. Then they can drop these like actually hard to obtain assets. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then those will have their own speculative value to them. Like, oh shit, this guy spent 10,000 hours
exactly
to get this sword.
Exactly.
How much is that motherfucker going to be worth? You know, probably millions.
Yeah.
Depending on how cool the game is. You know.
Yeah. Or how popular. I mean. Yeah, if there's like millions of players and it takes 10,000 hours to obtain some, you know, rare loot, people are going to spend millions of dollars on it. If just like you're seeing people spending millions of dollars on art NFTs, which has its own perceived value because of the effort and the work and the notoriety behind the artist itself. This has a different degree. Anybody can spend 10,000 hours to obtain this item. It's not the same for art. Only the specific artist with a background, with a history, with a level of following can sell their art for NFT for $1 million.
Yeah, so, people have spent that 10,000 hours.
Exactly, dude.
That's why he's being rewarded for it. He put in that 10,000 hours. He's now an expert at what he does.
Yeah, and now imagine people level like focus from the gaming space of people spending 10,000 hours in a specific game.
Oh, people have done it. I have done it.
Yes.
I have allocated more than 10,000 hours of my own existence into like, you know, the virtual world. And I've never been compensated for that.
Yeah.
Like from a financial perspective, you know what I mean? I had hot loot.
Yeah, other than like the virtual flex.
Exactly. I was definitely like flexing like all day, every day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I didn't walk away with anything truly valuable. But that's what we're changing here. Like that's the next frontier for NFTs.
Agreed. Agreed. And that's why we appreciate everything that Enjin is doing, because they're one pillar of what's going to be like this gaming craze that we will see at some point. We don't know when that's going to happen, but we will see it happen because we've seen it happen in the NFT space. So it's just a matter of time that we build that infrastructure for the gaming area. And yeah, Enjin is just that one pillar that's going to facilitate that craze. So that's the video for today. Hopefully you guys learned something new about NFTs. Make sure you like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. Comment what your thoughts are on Enjin. Do you see any new projects out there that we should be looking at in the gaming space? Let us know in the comment section below. Follow us on Twitter at The Block Runner and also at MetaZone.io, and we will catch you in the next video.
All right, peace.